It is the third day of October 2013. SDS is having a time of it here. Made new highs and is struggling as the S&P 500 found support and bounced. SDS found resistance and fell. If you look back at Monday's video, September the 30th, you'll see these two trend lines we drew in. And this is a 5-minute chart. Each candle represents 5 minutes. And as time goes on and another candle is added, this line just keeps extending. And so 5 days later, this resistance line, was it not accurate? Resistance, resistance. Once it got above it, it found it as support. Came down, fell through. Now it is back testing. And the back test here is a bit more difficult because as it back tested, it had the 8 and 20-day EMA to argue with to get through greater resistance. But right now it has fallen through the 50 SMA. And again, this is a 10-minute chart. We'll look at another chart here in just a bit. So stochastics are over sold area. MACD is confirming. RSI is pointed down, headed for 30. And we look at a 60-minute. So there was a resistance point right there. Why it stopped. The 200 EMA on a 60-minute chart was pretty accurate. I don't like the EMAs. I like my solid lines because they're there. Just like the price points are there. MAs do drift up and down, same as the Bollinger Bands, kind of like a buoy in water, drifting aimlessly. The line stay consistent with price points, buyers and sellers, support and resistance. So we will keep the market update. It is right now about 1:30 Eastern time. Remember, all non-essential employees will not be paid. Well, why would they be paid? They're non-essential. Presumptive reasoning, misleading information, deceptions go on and on. Charts are 100% accurate because they represent price of where price went. This is a evening star pattern, and did it not play out perfectly at resistance, where buyers stopped buying and sellers began to sell? Now, what would be positive here is we found support on the 50-day. We're having trouble with the 20-day. A close close to or above the 20-day of a 1688.91 at this time would be very positive. We might get a cross back over. Notice how the stochastic D have not fallen with the other stochastic indicators. Now, I do have it set differently. I got a 44.3 on that because it just gives us, if this thing points and starts running with this guy, we know we're in a heap of trouble. Many sellers. So I can't find any news that would help me make a decision. So I use my indicators because my indicators go off of price, and price is 100% accurate. Will the market continue? Stay tuned. SDS, the S&P 500 Ultra Short, 36.08 for the high of today, finding resistance, falling to support. 50-cent fall, basically. Now, as I said, these lines do float. Where would I draw a trend line? I would find a trend line. I would start here on this candle. See how that lines up with these other two candles. But I would want to be 50% piercing other candles. And it should be 50% roughly of that candle. Wow. Huh. Look at that. Right on the nose. Draw your trend lines. Another example is look at this long candle down day. And as I just mentioned, we want 50% as a marker of this candle because this is an hour chart, so each candle represents 1 hour. Wouldn't matter if it was a daily or a 1 minute or a 5 minute chart. We want to see what's going to happen in this next time frame of how it pierces 50% of this candle. So if it fails, as it did here, we know this particular instrument is not going to rise in value. It has now found support. But the time frame still doesn't matter because the markets are open Monday through Friday. So as we see here, when did it pierce the 50% level? Right about there. So if we drew a line in the sand here, looked at this 1 hour chart and said when it closes above that line, that's going to be a substantial and possibly a substantial move back to resistance because it would have found support, and we would have looked down here and saw 1 bottom, 2 bottom. Wow, on an hour chart, now breaks 50% level, closes above it, and we're off to the races. Off to the races, off to the races. Rise, gap up, back test for support, up to resistance. We drew those lines in there on a 10-minute chart for reference. Back to support, up to resistance, now to support. Now the gamble is go long or go short. What about the daily chart on the S&P 500? Looks like it found support. And as we said earlier, a close above 1688 would be positive, 1688. And this is our up channel. We wouldn't want to see it break this channel. If it does, next stop, support. Stay tuned.